Kate Bush, who's returned to her first love of dance with an ambitious film project called The Line, the Cross and the Curve. Kate wrote it, starred in it, and directed the film alongside Miranda Richardson and her former dance and mime teacher, Lindsay Kemp. The film began a nationwide tour in Edinburgh last night, and I'll give you the other dates a little bit later on. I spoke with Kate recently at the BAFTA Theatre in London.
It didn't really come together until the album was finished, which in some ways made the film something that had to work around something that had already been written. And, you know, obviously the album wasn't a conceptual album, it was very much individual songs put together. So it wasn't the ideal way for me to start out making the film. Worried about whether it would actually come together. I was also worried about whether I just had the energy to get through from the beginning to the end. But I have done this before on much shorter projects. You know, in the past when I've made videos, I've directed and I've enjoyed it very much, the whole process. But I think really what I found difficult with this was not only it was a much longer project, obviously 40 minutes as opposed to 6 or 7 minutes, but the fact that I was in it such a lot was what I found very difficult. I love directing, I find it really fascinating, but to be in front and behind of the camera, it's a real handful. And even in the videos that I've directed, I've been happier when I've only had like a small cameo role and used, you know, proper actors to hold the bulk of it together.
It's in the trees! It's coming!
Each song has its own story, and each song has a build-up and a climax within each song. So if you've got half a dozen songs, you're having to work within stories within stories. Do you know what I mean? It's quite compromising, but it was very challenging as well. I hadn't danced for years, and I was kind of at a point where if I didn't start then, I probably never would have. So I was quite grateful for that opportunity as well. I was very sore for a long time, but it was very rewarding, and I actually think if I hadn't been fit when we were making the film, I don't think I could have got through it. It's very physically demanding, and it gave me that kind of base of discipline and having pushed myself to help me get through it. Had it not been for the sort of concept of the red shoes, I don't think that dance would have necessarily played a big part in it, but it was all very much moving that way, and the fact that you know, other songs would have to be pulled out at some point for video clips, it just felt like a good continuity to involve dance as the basis of the story. You know, just the thing of doing something like this for the first time, it's one thing, but then to think people are actually going to see it, you know, this is something else. That's quite mind-blowing, really. Let me open with devotion. Put your hands never intended this album to take so long. It really could have been done much quicker. But, you know, there were just things that couldn't be helped that happened during the process of the album. I had 2 very big breaks away from working on the album. Up to a year was taken off during the process, which makes it very difficult because even though you're not working on the project, it's still hanging over you all the time. And it was difficult trying to complete it over such a long period of time. But beyond that, it was a lot of fun making that album, and I feel that we achieved a lot of nice things. There's some beautiful performances on there by people. And I do feel that in the long run, you know, the bottom line is, what is an album like? In years to come, when hopefully that might still be on the shelf, people aren't going to know how long it took to make, but they'll hear what's on there. And you have to do your best. So I did my best, but unfortunately it took me a really long time. Every time I start an album, there's a kind of sense that I've never done it before, because this is a new album, and what you've done, that was a long time ago. And obviously you want to do something different. I can't really get off on the idea of making one album after another as if it's like a continuation. What's exciting for me is that when we start a new album, there's a sense of, okay, so where's this one going to go? You know, where can this go that the last one didn't? You want to do something very different. Sometimes I think it's almost compensatory. You know, if you feel there was a lot of Celtic influence, say, on one album, you might want to move away from that on another. It's all very, very much exploring. And I don't think I'd get a lot of pleasure out of it if I didn't feel there were new things, new challenges. It's all a learning process, and if you do something and it works, there's such a great feeling about it for everyone involved. And of course, you know, sometimes it doesn't. It doesn't hurt me, yeah, yeah. Do you wanna feel how you feel? Yeah, yeah. Do you wanna know that it doesn't hurt me? Yeah, yeah. Do you wanna hear about the deal they're making? It's you and me. And every word, I'll make a deal with God, and I get him to swap out places. We're running up that road, we're running up that hill, we're running up that building. The way I'm able to work on albums now, I'm actually very lucky in a lot of ways. I've got a very good creative setup. I've got my own studio now, that although it was very expensive to initially put together, I can make records quite cheaply now. I can go in there and play around with ideas all day, and I'm not paying anyone for the time. And it gives me great creative freedom, which in a way I guess I've been slightly spoilt by. With a film, it's completely different. Everything is so expensive. And obviously the main bulk of work has to be done before you even start filming, because once you're on the floor with the crew, everyone's saying, okay, what are we doing? Everyone has to know exactly what they're doing. So you're very tied in, particularly by money, because you can't experiment with ideas, not when it's costing a fortune just to have people standing around. So I knew that we had a limited time to do it in, which is why, from my point of view, I would have been so much happier had I had longer to write and put it together. But I'm really pleased that I did it. I had a wonderful time working with all the people. They were very dedicated, talented people that I learnt a lot from. And the experience of working with someone like Miranda Richardson, and to work with Lindsay Kemp, who, you know, I worked with years ago, he was a big inspiration to me. To have him come into my world and be involved in that, it was very exciting for me. So I'm not sorry I did it, and although I'm disappointed creatively, I do hope that people will enjoy seeing it. You know, I toured 15 years ago, so now it's the film's tour, and maybe if I make another film, that will happen again in another 15. It's nice. I'm so flattered again, really, that this should be doing the circuit. It's you know, it's the first time I've ever done something like this, so I think it's very exciting for it to be getting such a high profile. What can I say? did that tour. That was a different thing to do at that time. I was very into dance, and it was unusual to put the two together. It was very challenging then to do that. But I think in some ways what would maybe be interesting for me now is to do it in a much more low-key way, so to be much more of a musician. You know, again, that was done 15 years ago, I did that, so maybe to do something that isn't so visually orientated with lots of dance, maybe not something that would appeal now, just something quieter. Maybe sometime I will be lucky enough to make another film. It was fun, but you know, I love music. I get a great deal of pleasure out of making music, and I hope I always will be involved in it. I would love to think I'll be able to, even if it's not making albums, you know, somehow making music that would be used with film or whatever. It means a lot to me. It's been with me since I was such a young age as well. It feels like it's a part of me. Whereas film is something that's very exciting, and you know, I've a lot to learn. It's just something different. It makes a nice change for me, really, from music.
A feature interview tonight with Kate Bush on the making of the album The Red Shoes and the new film called The Line, the Cross and the Curve. The last track we played was from the album And So Is Love, featuring Eric Clapton on guitar. Other tracks from the Red Shoes album included Top of the City, Eat the Music, the title track, and Robert Bangirl. The film is getting a nationwide screening at the moment, started last night, and is being screened under the heading of the Director's Chair at selected UCI cinemas during this month and June. Along with the film are 7 of Kate's promotional videos, and some of the cinemas will be playing the film toward the end of this month and in June include Solihull, East Kilbride, Telford, Hatfield, Sheffield, Clyde, Tamworth, Warrington, Hull, Portsmouth, High Wycombe, Dudley, Derby, and loads of other places. Check your listings for details.